How much of
Yes.
an influence was James Baldwin on you?
James Baldwin was not a sports writer. Like the extent of James Baldwin's sports knowledge was, he was assigned to cover Floyd Patterson versus Sonny Liston back
Mm.
in 1961. And he was convinced that Floyd Patterson was going to win this fight. If any boxing historians out there know exactly how the two Liston Patterson
Uh-huh.
fights, they did not go well for Floyd Patterson, right? So, but this is James Baldwin's level of sports knowledge, which is to say he was not a sports guy, but he was such an amazing, perceptive, uh, incisive, forward-looking writer. He could still pack so much meaning into like a fairly short work that his writing was tailor-made for a guy like me when I was 15, 14, turning 15, uh, looking to get into reading as a hobby. And my mom had a copy of The Fire Next Time at the house. So it was
Mm.
perfect for me because it spoke to what I was interested in, but it wasn't too long, right? So if my first attempt to grapple with reading had been Frederick Douglass's autobiography, things might have turned out differently. I might have got bored. Through reading Baldwin, I was able to understand like who the players were, what the stakes were in terms of who we were, who my family was, and who we were as Black Americans, but also Black Canadians, Black people, and in the broader global stage. And then also just about you know fathers and sons, because James Baldwin wrote a lot about his father, who actually was his stepfather, but the father he grew up with, and how
Mhm.
sometimes they got along and sometimes they didn't. And again, he would judge his father, but he would also have to empathize with his father and think about put himself in his father's shoes. Here's a guy with 9 kids working these menial jobs. He had at some point bigger ambitions for his life, but he got to feed these kids, and he
Mhm.
and the dad is like subject to all these implicit and explicit racial slights on the job, but he has to take it because he can't afford to be unemployed because he got to feed these kids. And so as you grow up, again, there's people around you, parents, grandparents, they might do things you disagree with. They might do things you hate. Um, and they might be 100% in the wrong, but it's still worth it to put yourself in their shoes and try to empathize and understand where they're coming from. And these are all the things Baldwin did. And again, sort of laying out a path for me as a writer, but just also as a human being without me even realizing it at the time.